Now we're recording. Oh, that means I've got to do all that intro again. Right, Sean, Katie, Sean. So I made it was like a thing. Basically, I ballsed up the intro. Firstly, trigger warning. We're going to talk about things that are getting talked about a lot, and they get categorized very politically. We're going to try and keep this not political.
Yeah.
This is about story.
Yeah.
Right? That being said, there might be a few things that get said that you don't agree with. Please, if you don't agree with it, just try and be nice in the comments. You know, we don't want this to be a sort of back and forth.
At the end of the day, we're not trying to be malicious. It's more of like a personal opinion.
Yeah, because we're movie lovers.
Yeah.
We're series lovers. That's the point of this channel.
And then people can have different opinions.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a different opinion. That being said, what we're talking about, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the new Snow White movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about remakes in general. But we're also going to talk about the state of Disney, because Disney's seems to be at war almost with itself.
Yeah.
So let's start with Snow White. Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, did a bunch of interviews, and it's Rachel Zegler that's getting a lot of online.
In particular.
Yeah, for the things that she's saying, and in particular, the things that she's saying around the plot of her version of Snow White.
So basically, if I understand from what I saw, basically what was said was it's going to be a very different story. She's not going to be waiting around for Prince Charming.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be more about her being like a leader and rising up to like
becoming the
queen. Yeah. So there was that. There's also the stuff with the 7 dwarves.
Yeah, that's one of the political things.
Yeah.
Because as far as I understand it, it's not going to be dwarves. It's going to be mythical creatures. That's where that.
I believe there is one.
There's one dwarf, because dwarfs are mythical.
Don't know if you should.
No, yeah, that was a bit satirical by me. But basically, what we're getting at is that's one of those things that people have been very arguing about. Is that, you know, I'm not even gonna get into it. But basically, the 7 dwarves, because it's Snow White and the 7 dwarves that it's based on, the 7 dwarves in that film have been recast, and apparently it's not dwarves. Apparently it's just mythical creatures in general.
Yeah.
There's that, and again, what you were saying about just the story. The story doesn't seem right.
But the thing is, because the entire story in itself, right, is literally whether or not you agree, like, oh, princesses should always fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
That was the story. Like, you know, her dad died, her evil stepmother, like, you know, like, sent a huntsman out to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
She stumbled across this cottage with, you know, inhabited by 7 dwarves, and they befriended her, and then she gets poisoned by this apple, and she has to be woken up by true love's kiss, and it's like this, it's like this really quite, like, nice story, whether or not you liked it, but that was the story, and now it just feels like it's completely different. And so what people have been arguing is, why are you trying to say that it's Snow White?
Yeah.
If you're presenting an entirely new story,
don't call it Snow White.
Just call it something else.
Yeah. And let's call a spade a spade. That move is a money grab. Because these movies being remade have all made a lot of money, whether they've been good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. You could say about Beauty and the Beast, it's fairly, you know, loyal to the original.
It wasn't the worst. The stuff I felt like the stuff they added on that though wasn't.
The worst one by far is Mulan. That's by far the worst Disney remake.
It felt like at the start when they started doing them, like Cinderella and some of the
101 Dalmatians.
101. Well, that's like the OJ.
1997.
No one can diss 101 Dalmatians.
No, they can't.
It started off really well because the stuff they were adding wasn't so much that it changed the entire story. It more added to character development and character arcs and stuff like that, which is good. But then it just seems like it's kind of gone downhill in the sense that they've taken characters out, they're taking whole story arcs out, and it's just like
they're essentially changing the entire DNA.
That's not. Would you say that's a remake? Like it's just like they're completely changing the entire story.
Yeah. So let's stay on Snow White for a second, because the thing that seems to be really, really upsetting a lot of people is how almost attacking she is towards the original.
Yeah.
Because she says it's very dated. You know, this is a movie that was made in 1937.
Yeah, of course it is.
And, you know, if she just turned around and said, well, we're going to make a movie that shows a bit more of the love story between her and Prince Charming. Even if she just said, it is a bit weird that Prince Charming just turns up, kisses her.
Yeah.
Because everyone believes that she's dead.
Yeah.
But if they were to turn around and say, we're going to be a bit more into the love story, why it's so triumphant in the end.
Yeah, maybe he figures out what the plan is and he knows he has to kiss her.
Yeah, like
stuff
I could forgive that, but it's how aggressive she seems to be toward the original.
It's very, you are not allowed to like the original.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like, and sometimes.
Yeah, and you know there is instances where, you know, in various other Disney movies where you could theoretically sit there and go, you know, ugh. But you have to learn to separate art from the time, the artist, everything, you know, because at the end of the day, 1937 was a very different time to what it is now. But Snow White isn't Disney's.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Grimm brothers. The only major thing that I would say that got added to Snow White, the story, from Disney, is the fact that he gave names to the dwarves. Oh, just so you all know, I recently watched Snow White, the original.
I'm surprised you did, because you're terrified of the Evil Queen.
And yeah, that's also worth mentioning. I didn't like Snow White, and it wasn't because of the story. It's because I was terrified of the Evil Queen. And I don't mean when she's the sort of
sorceress Evil Queen. It's when she's the hag.
Yeah, the hag.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, you can remake a movie, right, and add all this stuff in, but at the end of the day, this is a fairy tale that has a lot for a lot of people to identify with.
The thing is, and the main question I have, Disney, what is so wrong with falling in love?
Yeah.
Why is it? Because don't get me wrong, they've done stories recently and animated movies where it hasn't just been about falling in love, two people falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing different types of love, which I appreciate. They're showing like sisterly love, family love.
Familial, yeah.
It's still love, because love is like a very important and powerful thing. And but now it's like Snow White. It's like love is not allowed. It's not about that. It's about her being the strong female character. Yeah. And it's like, well, is there not strength in love? Is that what you're telling us? That if you love someone, you're weak? Is that what she's trying to say?
But the other thing with that is like, okay, so this Snow White is going to go out and aggressively pursue, like, you know, power, right?
Yeah.
Which is what generally people do at work every day. They're trying to get better, trying to make more money, you know. The good thing about Snow White is that it shows you this woman who, she's not after all this stuff. The only thing that she really wants is to find someone who she loves and who loves her back. I feel like that is almost every human being.
Yeah.
Whether they want to admit it or not, every human being wants to find that one person who truly, truly loves them. So why is that so bad? Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
She did say in the interview, she was like, the way she said it was like, she's not just gonna wait around and like fall in love, and it was like, yeah, it's just like, what's so wrong with that?
But the way that Snow White story is told is that there's a lot of morals in it that, you know. I mean, when you look at the basic structure, right, you've got the Evil Queen, who's in a position of power, by the way, just so people are aware, and you've got Snow White. Snow White loves something that doesn't hurt anyone. She's not after beauty, she's not after money and power. She wants someone who she wants to fall in love. Then you've got the other side of that, which is the Evil Queen, who by all accounts is the second fairest in the land, which isn't too bad, you know. But she lusts to be the fairest, which makes her the evil. But surely, in this scenario, the way that Rachel Zegler's described it, you're going to have the Evil Queen who lusts to be beautiful, if that's still her goal. But then you're going to have Snow White who's lusting for power. In that scenario, which one's worse? Because lusting for power and being aggressive and going after that sounds more...
Yeah, I think it depends on the way they present it. The thing that I've been thinking about recently, because this obviously isn't the first remake of Snow White. The one that came to mind was Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
Because that felt, when that came out, that had mixed reactions.
Yeah.
I feel like at the time for me I liked it, but then as I watched it more and more, I was kind of like, I felt a bit unnecessary.
Oh, you mean you had initial reactions? Because as far as reactions go, it didn't get very good reactions.
I was kind of like, oh, it wasn't so bad, but then I was like, yeah, no, that wasn't that. It's not that great, is it? And I feel like that was similar to what this is, and you feel like they would have learned from that.
Yeah.
It changed a lot about the story.
Yeah. Well, they changed pretty much the entire story, didn't they?
Yeah. And it was like, by the end of it, you're like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can add, if you want to make Snow White, if you want to add to her character, fair enough. If you want to add to the prince's character, fair enough, but...
If you want to add to any of the characters, fair enough. There's nothing wrong with adding. You don't have to destroy the story to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because another moral that you can take away from it is that, you know, she gets set on by the evil queen. She tells the huntsman to kill her and take her heart for proof. Because again, I watched this like 2 days ago, so I know every detail now. And the huntsman can't do it because he's like, well, this woman hasn't done anything wrong.
She's just an innocent
She's
girl.
innocent. She's pure. The only crime that she's supposedly committed is that she's beautiful. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Then when she leaves, she goes to the dwarves' house. She cleans everything up. She starts cooking food for them because these dwarves come, and as soon as she says, "Oh, I'm Snow White. My mother wants to kill me," immediately they're like, "Oh, not the evil queen! The evil queen! Look, she'll come and she'll kill everyone and she'll do this horrible thing." But she sits there and she goes, "Oh no, I don't want you just to shelter me. If you shelter me, I'll cook for you. I'll clean for you. I'll do anything I have to do to stay."
Yeah.
And they go, "Well, okay, fair enough. You know, again, you haven't done anything wrong." And you know, is that not better than her just arriving and going, "You've got to help me." You know, just because I say so, because I'm a strong woman. Got to do what I tell you. That always seemed like, you know, don't just because these people can help you doesn't mean they have to help you. Mm-hmm. It's like, and it's nice to be able to help them help you, help them help you. It's like that's not a bad thing.
That's what ends up like building their relationship, even with Grumpy. I love how so deep we're talking about this. With Grumpy,
I'm gonna get deeper. Oh, yeah.
It's like at first they're like they're so like, you know, like, okay, she can stay here for a few nights, but like that's it, and they're kind of really like weary around her because of that fear. But then because of the type of person she is, and they get to know her, they grow this bond so much so that they're willing to go like fight the evil queen to like save her, and they're devastated when she dies. And that's the kind of, again, it's love. It's not romantic, but it's friendship, and it's
friendship, and it's like, is this poor girl again who hasn't done anything wrong being persecuted by someone in a position of power, you know, this power that she's going to be hunting in the new one, and she's had to pay the price for it, you know. Essentially she's died, as far as I'm concerned, just for being a beautiful woman, you know. And that is something again that you could be teaching people, that people get, you know, people take advantage of things like that.
Yeah.
They exploit things like that. Something that you want to teach people. You know, there's so many... I didn't realise until I watched it with a very interpretive eye how many morals are in the film, because to me it's sort of like, oh, you've got, you know, Bashful, who obviously fancies the princess completely. You've got Dopey, who's in there just to swallow soap.
Yeah, the comedic laughs.
Yeah. But then you look at characters like Grumpy, who like goes through a full arc in about 10 minutes, where he's like, hates her, can't stand that there's this intruder in a house, starts to like her because she cooked for him, leaves, and he does like her, but he doesn't want to admit that he likes her because he's grumpy and he has to be grumpy. But then as soon as they figure out that the queen wants her and she's coming for her, Grumpy's the first one to ride off to save her. And it's like, that kind of story is like,
yeah,
you need to instill these kinds of things in people.
That in itself is really powerful, because I mean, each dwarf is like, it's a stereotype, isn't it? Like the grumpy, the dopey, sneezy. It's kind of like they're kind of put into these roles, but then they break them, you know, eventually. And it's like that's...
Yeah. Because again, and that's another one, by the way, the queen doesn't think very much of anyone that she deems less than her. The only one that she considers a threat is Snow White.
Yeah.
The huntsman's a slave, the mirror's a slave, the little men won't bother her that much if they're out because they're gone. They're just little slave men who go and mine and whistle and stuff. And then it's ultimately her viewing them as less when she's trying to kill them with a rock that kills her. And again, it's like, because Snow White treats them as equals, you know, that again,
she's better than her.
Yeah,
because of
it's
that.
like, surely those are the kinds of messages that you want to be given. And then another one, just that I'm thinking of there, Snow White's too trusting. But it sort of says, well, it's all right to be trusting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also goes, well, don't trust strangers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because yes, this woman's old and frail, and she doesn't look like she can harm anyone. But ultimately, you know, she ends up being this.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? She's too good for.
Yeah, she's
she's
too pure. Yeah, and it's like, again, people take advantage of that, and it just feels like because we're getting far too interpretive now. And we're coming off topic.
We're just completely like dissecting the movie.
And it's kind of like, I can't see how they're going to get those morals in a new film based on what Rachel Zegler said, when you haven't got that. If you're changing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Unless like they're going to have a Minotaur called bloody Sneezy or something, and he's essentially just going to be the same character except he's a Minotaur. You know, it's kind of like the whole point of the dwarves, I feel, was always that they were lesser because they're just simple men, go to work, come home, you know. And again, it's
workers.
People say about how it's very not dated in regards to women, but you think the main woman in power is a woman. The men are just simple men until Snow White turns up. The house is a state, you know. Nothing's clean, everything's minging. There's no food. It's like, you know, give the characters personality, take away certain things, make it about whatever you want to make it, but keep those morals intact, because that's I mean, no one wants to go to Disneyland to see a Snow White who's going to be standing there going, you need to do this and this and this and this, as opposed to a Snow White who's just standing there saying, oh, love will find you and true love and all that. I know which one I would rather go and see. It's not just because I fancied the pants off the lass who was playing Snow White in World of Disney, or whatever it's called. Disney World, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just feels like Disney's almost cannibalizing itself. Because this movie, just to give all you context, this movie essentially launched Disney. This is the original Disney princess movie. You know, when people are referred to as Disney princesses, it's because of Snow White.
Mm-hmm.
So without Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the animated film, all these people who are now going to pump millions of dollars into this remake, they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be doing that job. But now they're essentially going, oh yeah, by the way, that's not very good.
Yeah.
And we're going to do better than that.
It feels a bit disrespectful for the people that made it as well, don't you think? Like, for them, that might have been their life's work. That might have been their greatest achievement. And they're just saying, okay, yeah, it's not good. Like, you can say, okay, yeah, maybe some of it's a bit outdated, but, like, it was made in, like, 1937? Of course, it's outdated, but it's still, like you said, the morals still hold up. Like, the message at the end is still a good one, so you can't...
I think the animation still holds up, considering it was 1937. It's still brilliantly animated.
So it's just a bit, like...
Yeah.
You know? It's a bit rude to just be like, oh, yeah, that's rubbish.
Yeah, because, again, if they'd just come out and said... We're going to add a bit more to Prince Charming. Mm-hmm. Because, again, he does just turn up to what is it supposed to be.
He's not in it very much, is he?
He's in 2 scenes. And, but there's that initial meeting, and there's nothing wrong with the initial meeting. Because he meets her, you know...
He's like, oh my god, she's the most beautiful woman in the world.
He's so besotted and in love with her. But then she stands there and goes, oh my, and, like, you know, she tries to clean herself up, even though she's in rags and stuff, and she goes out and she gives him a kiss, and it's all very romantic. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right? It's that idea of love at first sight. There's nothing at all wrong with that. The ending scene where he turns up to a supposedly dead body and kisses it. That, okay, yes, you could argue that, but that's a simple fix.
Just add more to them as characters.
Like have him find a book that explains it, or have him maybe raised in the castle. So
like the one they did with Kristen Stewart, I felt like something they did good with that was they made them like kids and they grew up together.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the good bits that they added to it.
Yeah.
So just do that. Just have them like grow up together.
Didn't they try and do a Huntsman and her romance as well?
Yeah.
That seemed a bit weird.
That wasn't, I mean, that was probably one of the only few good bits in it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just feels like, and to me, the worst thing about those interviews with Rachel Zegler is that she comes off as very arrogant. And I've never met her. I don't know what she's like, but you know, here you are, 22-year-old, you're about to play the most famous Disney princess of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen to how arrogant she sounds sitting there deconstructing in a very harsh way this near century-old movie that's essentially set the stage for her to play that character. To then sit there and go, oh yeah, it's not very good. Our version's going to be much better because she's going to be after power. It's about the leader she always knew she could be. It's kind of like, well, that's not the Snow White story. Just make a new Disney movie.
Yeah.
If you wanna, you know, make a movie about women who go out and try their best to achieve something, fair enough. Do
That's
it.
what Mulan is, though.
No,
She doesn't go after power, but like she's like the strong leader. She's like the strong. Well, I wouldn't even call her a princess, even though she kind of is a princess. You know what I mean? She's the strong one. She's the fighter.
Yeah, she's a
Snow
fighter.
White never had to be the fighter. That's not who she was.
Yeah, because each Disney princess is essentially a different thing, isn't it? It's like a different type of female, I suppose would be the right thing. It's a different type, you know. Like you've got Snow White, who's only after true love. That's all. That's the only aspiration that she has. She wants to find someone who she truly loves. You know, you've got Belle, who wants to, depending on which version you go off. You know, all she cares about is being smart. She likes being smart. She likes reading. She likes updating our culture, you know, and stuff like. And that's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being smart, intelligent. What's wrong with? Nothing wrong with that. Mulan, you know, she essentially sacrifices herself potentially to save her dad. Mm-hmm. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. She fights because she wants to fight, so her dad doesn't have to fight. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But then these movies are coming out, and they're essentially going, well, no, we're going to take all good. I mean, the fact they took the music out of Mulan is an absolute crime against humanity. We have to talk about that
in a bit because that's just
But yeah, I suppose my final point on Rachel Zegler and Snow White is, you can remake a movie. There's nothing wrong with remaking a movie. It's happened before, right? There's a very, very, very fine line between destroying the movie and just shot-for-shot remaking the movie. And both of those things aren't very good.
Yeah.
And getting that line is very hard, which is why certain movies shouldn't be remade. You know, what's a remake that was better?
I would argue 101 Dalmatians.
No.
Would you not think? I always preferred the live action 101 Dalmatians.
I mean, I love
personally myself.
I love Glenn Close as Cruella de Vil. I do love that. But that actually, yeah, you know what? Fair enough, because that one,
I feel like you could argue that could potentially be better than the anime.
Because they did do the story as it was meant, but they added enough in to make it modern, and to make it better and more accessible. Yeah.
They added more of the characters, didn't they?
Fair enough, yeah. Like, I think off the top of my head, the two things that they added that were really important in modernising it, Anita and Roger both figure out that it's Cruella that has the dogs. They just don't know where she is.
Yeah.
Right, that's good.
Yeah.
Because in the original, obviously Roger thinks
it's Cruella, but they don't know.
But Anita doesn't believe that. But then they also, instead of they get their millions from music, you know, they go, oh well, he's a video game designer. You know, they also give Anita a job. You know, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Fashion designer, yeah.
And that's how they make their millions, because he makes this game, and that's good addition. But the rest of the core story
remained the same.
Is all the same.
They also
and
added
it
more,
also had Hugh Laurie in it.
They also added more to Cruella as well, though, didn't they? Like I feel like they did more to kind of really emphasize how just evil she was, like with the lion.
Tiger.
The tiger, sorry, the
Snow
tiger.
Snow tiger.
Sorry,
because I watched that recently
tiger.
as well.
With the snow tiger, stuff like that. Like, this isn't the Dalmatians aren't the first time. Like, and she's just evil in the way she talks to.
Glenn Close was brilliant as
she was really good. Stuff like that. It's like you can add stuff to the movie, but you don't have to like destroy everything that made it good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So let's talk about remakes, because again, Disney seems to be pumping these things out. Right now.
Don't know why.
Now, I would argue there are certain remakes that have been okay.
Yeah.
So Cinderella, I don't know, but as far as I've been taught, because I haven't seen Cinderella, apparently Cinderella is acceptable in terms of remakes.
It's not the worst, I would say. It's definitely, I feel like when it first came out, it was kind of like, but I feel like as time as time has gone on and the more they've done, I'm like, okay, that's definitely gone up in my list.
Richard Madden is an inspired choice for Prince Charming.
Yeah.
That is one handsome man.
But what that did good in the same, it's the same story.
Yeah.
Right? She like, but they do add bits, so they explore more about they really go into detail about like a mum and the kind of relationship she had with her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more impactful, I feel like, when the stepmom comes in.
Yeah.
And kind of destroys that house that she's, you know, grown up in and loves so much. And
God, I might have to watch Cinderella now.
yeah, it's yeah.
For me, 101 Dalmatians is definitely up there as the best one, because
Yeah.
I do love I love Jasper
Even-
and I love Jasper and Horace, because that's Mr. Weasley and Hugh Laurie. Who doesn't love that?
Yeah.
And Glenn Close is brilliant, and
Even-
Jeff Daniels is
Even
brilliant.
the sequel was good. Like, I could watch the sequel.
Oh yeah, Lorne Griffiths.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, good for them.
But then we get to the other end of the spectrum. They obviously didn't learn, because as far as I know, I don't think Cinderella did fantastically at the box office. I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember. That was like 2014, 15 or something. So it was quite a while
I
ago.
honestly have no idea about 101 Dalmatians, because that was like the 90s. But then we start entering Mulan.
Like, I feel like it just kind of went downhill
Very
very. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's really, really good. It's kind of, it's acceptable. Then blue.
Yeah.
And then blue, and then it just crashed and burned.
Because we could talk about Snow White and the Huntsman, but we've already talked about that.
Yes.
But they also did Maleficent, which I haven't seen.
Wasn't.
It's not technically a remake,
No.
because it's not about Sleeping Beauty.
It's more like a retelling.
Yeah.
But they advertised it as that, and that. See, that's a weird one, because that kind of goes against what we're saying with Snow White. They did change the story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
But
of. It was more like a side thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the story's happening, but we're exploring Maleficent as the story's happening.
Yeah.
The story itself.
Is it not just a film that tries to add depth to Maleficent?
Maleficent isn't the bad guy.
Yeah.
In that
Whereas
movie.
in the original movie, she's 100% the bad guy.
She is and she isn't. Basically, do you want me to tell you?
I'm not bothered.
So, Aurora's dad and Maleficent were in love.
Mm-hmm.
He then betrays her. He steals her wings, because she has wings in like the earlier days.
Right.
So that, because he takes them to the king, who wants Maleficent dead, and he becomes the king because of that. The king's on his deathbed.
Right.
Marries the king's daughter. He then obviously, you know, doesn't invite Maleficent. The baby shower and all that stuff. All that happens. She curses the baby.
She's called Aurora, isn't she?
Aurora, yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched the original
And it's
Sleeping Beauty.
it wasn't one of my favourites, I'll be honest. And she kind of watches Aurora grow up, because she like wants to watch
Is that one also
the
a
curse happening.
grim story?
Might be.
Does she
Can't
prick her
remember.
finger on a
It's
spinning wheel?
spinning wheel, yeah.
Because that does sound like a grim thing.
Might be. I honestly don't know.
It's been a while since I read the Grimm's.
Yeah, but then what happens, because she's watching her grow up from a baby to adulthood, she ends up like
bonding with her.
Yeah.
So she feels
and-
bad when she gets.
Yeah, and the big thing. So like, she tries to save her. She tries to get the prince, who Aurora's kind of developed a romance with, to kiss her. It doesn't work. She then goes over and says she's gonna watch over her until she dies, and kisses her on the forehead, and that wakes her up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave together, and
Who, Aurora and the
Maleficent. The dad dies. They leave, and
that doesn't happen in the
Maleficent Maleficent crowns Aurora as queen. It's pretty different. The main thing of like, from when she's like a baby, and her getting cursed, and then like her getting pricking her fingers, accurate, but it's
Alright, let's not talk about that one because I haven't seen that one.
yeah.
But then you get to the ones. Because everyone loved Beauty and the Beast. That's a lie. Everyone didn't love Beauty and the Beast. Everyone was indifferent toward Beauty and the Beast.
It was another one of those ones where it was like, yeah, it's not too different, but with that one, there was stuff in it added where people were just like, why did you add that?
Yeah.
The thing with like a mum,
Yeah.
people like fair enough about talking about a mum, but her like being transported to Paris, and it was kind
There's
of
also
like,
there's also the thing about her being the inventor, not her dad.
yeah, Dad's kind of stupid.
Yeah. I didn't see why that had to happen. Because literally, our dad only has one thing.
That's inventing.
Yeah, don't take it away from him. Poor old Maurice. But Beauty and the Beast is one of the most celebrated Disney movies of all time.
Yeah.
Then, on the similar level to that was Aladdin. Because Aladdin,
Was similar.
the only real change they did was that they gave the genie a happy ever after that wasn't just him being freed from slavery.
Yeah.
Because he ended up with the wifey on the... Who was she Jasmine's friend or something?
Jasmine, I think, handmaiden or something like that, wasn't
Yeah,
she?
and it was kind of like... So he was telling that he was the... You know, the guy who
The
turns up
narrator.
at the beginning who does the whole Agrabah thing at
Yeah.
the beginning. He was that guy. But then...
It wasn't terrible. It was definitely not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. When they announced it, I was kind of like, oh my god.
The problem is with that is that they made it too much about Jasmine. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of good characters in Aladdin who need time. I feel like
I felt like they slept a bit on Jafar.
Jafar, yeah, even Aladdin
Yeah.
was a bit lackluster. The genie was okay, but let's face it,
Will Smith was...
better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I thought he was just going to try and imitate
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, and he didn't. He was, to be fair, he was kind of his own genie,
Yeah.
which...
But let's
better.
be fair, the genie should be stealing the show in that film.
Well, that's because Robin Williams did.
Yeah. You know, but yeah.
It's hard to follow a performance like that.
But then, so my two things with those two films, my particular very thingy about those two films is there's not very much singing. And what I mean by that is the music is in it, but you know,
It's more talking.
Emma Watson goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's something sweet and almost kind, but he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined." It's kind of like, no.
I think that's quite what she did.
And then, yeah, like the song should have been so great because it's got such great songs in it.
In Beauty and the Beast, I felt like Aladdin's songs were decent.
The last who played Jasmine was really good singer.
Yeah.
But even then, it was kind of like, what's the most famous song from that film?
A Whole New
A
World.
Whole New World. How does it start? I can show you the world. Shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess. You know, and then she starts, but she actually sings her lines, and it's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's just like stop starty, you know, and it kind of pulls me out of it a little bit, and I kind of go, well, I'm not enjoying it. But then, okay, before we get to the really bad one, there's The Lion King. Absolutely no point in that film being made whatsoever.
That's not even a live action. I hate when people say it's live action. That is literally not live action. They did not go and film a bunch of real lions running around.
Doing
It's
Shakespeare.
It's not live action.
The Lion King. Why remake that movie? It's literally the second best Disney movie that's ever been made. We all know what the first is, Tangled. But I just didn't need... The fact that they turn around and go, we're going to do a live action remake, and it's not live action.
Yeah.
All the lions look the same. You know, Scar doesn't sing, he recites poetry. You know, it's just like... The original is literally Shakespearean in its story.
Amazing. The original one's so good.
They went so far to not remake it that they got David L. Jones in, or is it James L. Jones? I think it's James L. Jones, to voice Mufasa again. What's the point?
Yeah.
You know, like, do like another Lion King movie. Don't ruin Simba's pride. Don't ruin Lion King 2.
The issue I had with that was it didn't feel, and as horrible as to say, the acting didn't feel like it was where it should have been. The voice acting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe it's because it wasn't animated. So, like, when it's animated, you kind of like, you have to be over the top because it has to match what it looks like. Whereas this, it felt like they were kind of tearing it down a bit, and it just didn't. I was watching it, I was kind of just like, I'm bored.
I will say the two people who voiced Timon and Pumbaa were good.
Yeah, one of them was Seth Rogen, wasn't?
Yeah, oh yeah, Seth Rogen was like, and I think it's Billy something.
I'm not
You know
sure.
the guy that runs around on the street and yells at people, the microphone.
No.
Gets like a celebrity with him, and then he runs up and he goes, "Who's Will Ferrell?" And they go, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, you don't get the dollar," and then runs away. I think he was Timon, but they were okay. Zazu wasn't very good. Mufasa wasn't very good. Simba wasn't very good. You know, and the guy who, I can't remember his name, the guy who plays Scar is such a good actor. He wasn't very good as Scar. Let's face it, you're not going to beat Jeremy Irons as Scar. You haven't got anyone who's got a voice like Jeremy Irons because he's English, right? And yeah, so that one just felt like a real letdown.
I feel like did that come after Beauty and the Beast? I'm trying to think of the order because it felt like it got to a point where it was just like ooh, and then it just got progressively worse.
But I don't know when this one came out. Hands down, the absolute worst Disney remake that they've done is Mulan.
That, yeah.
Mulan, to me, the original that is, not the remake. If you want to show your daughter a strong female character, Mulan is the character that you show her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not for the whole, we need to make strong female characters. Just make good characters that happen to be female. You know, that's all that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like they did with Mulan.
Yeah.
She's a great character who just happens to be female. Obviously, her gender is quite important to the story because she's a woman who aren't allowed to fight.
But the thing is, though, she doesn't go there trying to prove something.
No.
And that's what I think people forget. It's not like, oh my god, I'm a woman, I need to go and prove that I'm better than all these men. It's actually, my dad is ill and will probably die if he goes to war.
Definitely die.
Will definitely die. I need to protect him. I'm going to go in his place, and it's not. She's not going there to prove something. She's going there just to save her dad. But by being there and by learning and training and being surrounded by these people, she becomes a good fighter. And it's like.
So, the two Mulans is the most perfect example of what Disney used to be compared to what Disney is now. Right? Disney used to be about making good characters and good stories. Right, because Mulan is a character who starts off, she has no idea who she's going to be. You know, she feels the sort of
that is literally the whole
the wife test, is
reflection.
She feels that test. She has no idea who she wants to be, but then this conflict comes up, and she knows she can't let her dad go because he'll die. She has to go. Right, she's just an ordinary lass, but she's going to fight this war. Right, and she goes. How does she start off? She's not very good. She's never fought. She's never done training like this. She's never done anything like that before in her entire life. She's terrible at it, to the point where Shang kicks her out, and he's like, you can't do it. Leave." Yeah. And there's literally the most perfect symbol.
That's such a good song as well.
It's such a good song of her just refusing to give up because there are bigger things and more important things than her giving up. Yeah, she gets the arrow.
She literally overcomes the obstacle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, and what happens? She trains harder. She trains better. Not only does she become a good fighter, but she earns everyone's respect, including Shang's. That's important. But then you get remake Mulan.
She was so ridiculously overpowered.
Turns up. She's just better than everyone. And this is the sort of Disney super Karen that they're producing at the minute, where they don't have to go through any struggle. They're just better than everyone. They don't. It doesn't matter if.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they've never done this thing before in their entire life. We all know Star Wars is in there as well. You know, but it doesn't matter. She's better than everyone.
It's just so unrelatable. Like with Mulan, like she almost is like you want to get up and you want to get the stick and you want to start doing the thing because you're like, I can do that. I can be like Mulan. But then in the live action, she just turns up and she's just like kicking everyone's backside, and you're like,
what is it she's got? She's got chi or something. She's got like a special magic.
I don't know.
Where she's better than everyone. But it's like, not only that, but like, when she is revealed as a woman, they kick her out again. She realises all the danger's not actually gone. Well, she doesn't go, this isn't my fight anymore. They kick me out. She goes, right, I could die. I could, either these guys could kill me, I could be executed for treason. But there's more important things at stake here. Let's go and save some people. She does it her way. And in the end, the warriors end up having to
become woman.
Become more like her.
They become
to
feminine.
achieve. She saves Shang. You know, she
saves China.
She saves
For the
China.
love of God.
She defeats the bad guy, not single-handedly, by the way.
Mm-mm.
She doesn't beat him single-handedly.
Because he is a mountain of a man, and let's face it, she's a tiny little skinny girl.
He's called Shan Yu or something like that.
He's such a cool villain. He's such a cool villain. Oh.
And, you know, then it goes from she hasn't just earned the respect of all the people that she's fought, she's respect all of China. And then there's that love, and it's honestly one of the most heart-wrenching moments.
The Emperor gives her like the thing so she can go home and show her dad, like, I saved China. Like
that's genuinely one of the most heartwarming things ever, right? In Mulan when she goes back, because she knows she's potentially brought dishonor to her family. She comes back with Shan Yu's sword. She's got the Emperor's seal, and her dad takes it off him, and he goes, "Don't care about that. You're my daughter."
Yeah.
You know, that's so heartwarming, and for some reason, they changed everything. Why did they change everything?
I'm sorry. The minute they said they took a Mushu out, I knew it was going to be a flop.
I know. Thing is, I could have forgiven someone not being as good at Mushu as Eddie Murphy if Mushu was in it.
Do you know what it is, right? If they had taken out like the cricket or something like that, I would have been like, okay, yeah. I mean, him and Mushu had like a bit of a banter. But it's not. He didn't talk. He was just kind of there.
Yeah.
But Mushu is like an integral character. Shang is an integral character. You know what I mean?
Character.
But it's like, so they were like, oh yeah, because, you know, we don't like love. She's not gonna fall in love. Shang's not gonna be in it. But it's like, if you remember Mulan, she leaves Shang. She goes home. She doesn't. You know what I mean? That's not her. Like,
she doesn't chase him.
He chases her.
He chases her, yeah.
And like they don't even end up like they're kind of like, oh yeah, like, you know, you'll have to like, you know, meet with family and all that stuff. But they don't like end up like getting married and all that stuff by the end of the movie. They
do that silly joke at the end, don't they? Because the grandmother's there, and Mulan says something like, "Oh, do you want to stay for dinner?" And the grand goes, "Do you want to stay forever?" You know, and that's it. It's kind of like, okay, so it's implied at the end, but I don't care about that.
They do a sequel.
I
have seen the sequel. It's
good. Yeah. It's very good. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
Disney sequels used to be good. Lion King 2, banger. But yeah, that's one of those examples where they just seem to cannibalize themselves. Like they took Shang, aside from being the romantic interest at the end, his romance arc is next to non-existent until the last 5-10 minutes of the film.
He also, like, because it's like when you watch as an adult, you also kind of realise, doesn't he like fall in love with Mulan while he thinks she's a boy?
Yeah.
Which is a man. Sorry, a man. I will make a man.
It's not Connell. I'll make a boy out of you.
Yeah, man. So, you know, it's kind of like it's not very traditional Disney princess, is it? It's not like, it's very different. I just can't understand why they would like change it.
Shang's most important role in that film is essentially representing Mulan's progress. That's what he is. Yeah, it essentially represents Mulan's sort of progress in the film, because he starts off like completely against her because she's terrible, she's the worst of the group, but through her simply refusing to give up, he completely respects her and treats her, not knowing that she's a woman, by the way, completely respects her because she's worked her backside off to be as good as she is, and then she ultimately ends up saving his life, and he respects her that much despite being betrayed because he finds out that she's a woman. He respects her that much.
He doesn't
execute her for treason, and he defends her. He even defends her at the end by saying, she might be, but she's just saved China. It's like, what? She's a hero. It's like she's not a, you know, and it's such a crime what they did to that film. Like, it's actually,
and it felt like, because I know we're not getting political, but it's hard to avoid this topic. It feels like it's all in the name of strong women.
Yeah.
But it's like they don't realise what they're doing is they're just making these overpowered, unrealistic, these women that are so hard to identify with.
Yeah.
Like, I look at like the kind of like the live action women that they're doing, and I'm like, I can't relate to that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas like I say, you watch Mulan or you watch Beauty and the Beast, like even the live action, you're like, oh, she likes to read. She's not like everyone else because she's like smart and intelligent.
Yep.
And then she meets someone, even though she doesn't want to fall in love, she meets someone who accepts that she's intelligent.
She looks beyond
Yeah.
the look.
Mhm.
I feel like is the important thing.
Yeah.
Because on looks, Gaston is the one that you would pick.
Yeah, but she goes for the Beast.
But she goes for the Beast because actually getting to know him, he's not as ghastly as he looks.
Mhm.
You know, and it's.
But it's like you can relate to that, whereas I feel like they're trying to do these strong women, but they're just not doing them justice.
Yeah.
Because you just can't relate to them.
Yeah. So my main point with Mulan and even with certain other remakes is, and it's been the thing with every movie recently, because it's not just Disney making this mistake. Don't aim for a strong female character. Aim for a good character that happens to be female.
That is well written.
Yeah, because you could argue that strong female characters have been a thing way before they started doing it. You know, Terminator, Sarah Connor's a brilliant character. Ripley from Alien is a brilliant character. There's a lot. Leia from Star Wars was a brilliant character. The rest of the females aren't that great in that series, I'll admit. But you know, you can create good characters.
But usually, what they do in those instances, though, is they show you the absolute like weakest, and then they have the strongest there, and so you kind of like.
You see them rise over the worst.
But because you have like the polar opposites, it just makes the strongest one look better, and that's why they did it, and it's just.
But then you compare that to sort of modern, but even Wonder Woman, who's like your most ideal version of the perfect woman, in that movie, she has to earn her strength. She has to earn being the best. Yes, she's born. She's strong. But she doesn't understand the world that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she thinks the world's as simple as you beat the bad guy and that's it. It's done. It's not that simple. You know, she loses a man who she actually loves, and which gives, you know, any cause to turning bad. But she ultimately overcomes it, and she wins, and it's like, that's more identifiable than, say, Rey, who just on the click of a finger becomes better than everyone. And
I've thought about it so often. A part of me feels like, is it just personality? Because sometimes it feels like their entire personality is just to be strong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas, and they're not given it any other personality outside of that. And it's like, no, like, explore them as a person. I want to see, are they funny? Are they smart?
Do they have flaws?
Yeah. Like, show me these things, because that's what make people people. Yep. Don't just, like, if you just show me someone that's just strong all the time, they're not allowed weakness, I'm like, but they're just a robot. Like, why? How am I going to like that person?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like Disney has gone wrong recently, and that's where Snow White, linking back to Snow White, could go wrong if they're taking away the things that made her a person, those characteristics and those personality traits, and we're just left with this strong woman that they're just thrown at us, then it's just like, I can't relate to her as a character.
Yeah. Because you could argue that almost every Disney princess in one sense or another has some sort of superpower. Right? Especially the best Disney princess, Rapunzel. But like the likes of Snow White, right? Her superpower is, one, she can sing to animals and have animals respond to her.
Imagine that. I would love that.
And the other one is that she's the fairest in the land. She's beautiful, right? That doesn't define her.
No.
Right? Because yes, she's beautiful, but she's also nice. She's kind. She tries to help people. She helps a bird who gets knocked out of its nest. She doesn't, and she has flaws. She has flaws, which is what makes her identifiable. If what Disney's trying to peddle is that every woman is perfect the way they are, right? Then yes, people would be able to identify to some of these characters, but no one in the world is perfect.
That perfect, yeah.
It's like Mulan, Belle, every Disney princess, or if you're someone like me, every Disney prince or Disney character that happens to not be female, you can see yourself in them. And that's why by the way, Tangled is the best Disney movie.
There's talks about them doing a live action Tangled, and I'm like,
I hope they don't. I will never ever forgive Disney if they do that.
It's
as much as I love Florence Pugh.
Just I know she's been really, and Joe. I feel like she could pull off.
Fabian, what's his name is Flynn, isn't it?
They might just turn around and be like, okay, so there's gonna be no music, there's no
Finn.
Max isn't gonna be in it, and there's no Flynn, and it's just Then what is it? Just Rapunzel with long hair. Just nothing.
So it's worth mentioning, by the way, since these Rachel Zegler interviews have happened, Disney has lost 990 million in their share prices. I think they've lost a lot of money. Which it isn't. 990 million is ridiculous as it might sound coming from me.
For us poor people, yes, but for them rich,
it's not that much.
Rich
money.
people, that's
I think
just,
they laid off 7,000 people.
That's just like a Tuesday.
But it just shows you how careful you have to be, because at the end of the day, these movies mean a lot to people. Just like movies in general, mean a lot to people. But Disney's proven in the past that they can make good new movies.
It's crazy because they're doing it now. Live, like animated short, like movies. Sorry, Encanto, Coco,
Moana,
Frozen, Moana. Like they're good movies. And then on the flip side, the live action, it's like, what the hell's going on?
They're doing a live action Moana. Well, it came out like 6 years ago.
No.
It's like,
it's so annoying. I feel like
that's what I mean by they're sort of self-cannibalizing themselves. They're essentially going, oh, we've made a really great movie. Oh, we can't think of anything else. Oh, let's make that movie again. And it's kind of like, it's this endless, just keep going forward, making good movies. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with writing a good movie.
Yeah.
The problem is that I think Disney's almost running out of ideas. You know, which sort of, and I had a point that
I would much rather them release a movie every 5 years than release like 5 movies every year and them not be very good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So just to end it, because we're pushing on an hour here. Here's the thing with remakes, right? You can look at the pattern of the remakes, and they've essentially made their biggest hits. Remade the biggest hits.
Yeah.
Which could also be applied to Moana. Moana was a gigantic hit. Could be applied to Tangled as well.
You watched Moana, you thought it was good?
I thought it was really good.
We have to watch Encanto next, you'll probably cry.
Yeah, will I? Oh.
I sobbed my little heart out.
But they're essentially remaking all their biggest hits. Money grabs. But if I was in charge of something like Disney, I would be sitting there going, right, okay, so this movie is actually a really good movie, but it never got as much acclaim as the other ones.
Yeah.
Let's show people, by redoing the story but adding a few bits and bobs in, how good this movie was.
But would you do it in live action, or would you maybe just remaster the animated and maybe add some stuff in it with?
I wouldn't mind either. I
feel like that would be the way to go. I don't think I would do live action. I think if you were like, oh, we're going to re-release Hunchback.
Hunchback's the one I always say.
And we're going to... but you don't have to add anything to Hunchback. That's perfect the way it is. He's perfect the way he is.
But Hunchback's the perfect example of, it's a brilliant film, but doesn't get nearly as much credit as it should. Let's face it, folks. Brilliant protagonist, brilliant secondary protagonist, brilliant female lead, brilliant antagonist, brilliant music, brilliant animated design, brilliant story, brilliant everything. It's literally brilliant. There's nothing wrong with that film at all, right? But it doesn't get nearly as much love as it deserves.
Yeah.
And considering the way, like I say, we don't want to get too political, but seeming the way that Disney seems to be going, you'd think that someone like Esmeralda is right up their street, because she literally stands there and spits in the face of a tyranny. She does fight oppression.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's right up their right up their current street. You know, like, the main protagonist, Quasimodo, doesn't want to fight the tyranny. He just kind of wants to help. Yeah, he wants to help his friend. He doesn't want to go outside because his master told him not to. Gets taken advantage of. Gets bullied. You know,
then he learns that his flaw isn't the way he looks.
Yeah.
It's the fact he's hid himself away and that he can trust people.
But also, it what's that phrase Hollywood loves to use at the minute? What did they say about The Last Jedi?
Terrible.
No. yeah. I said that. We said that. Subverts expectations. That's what I was looking for. It subverts expectations in that the main protagonist doesn't get the girl.
Yeah. Oh.
But
That's so sad.
the real hero in that film is the main protagonist, who's the ugly, sort of deformed one, but the handsome, big strapping fellow who's a good fighter, he doesn't save the day. It's. I mean, he ultimately does, because he catches Quasimodo when he's falling from Notre Dame, but it's Quasi that saves the day. You've got the gargoyles were great as well, by the way. The goat is very funny. But yeah, that would be my choice. I wouldn't look at a film like The Lion King, which is
already perfect,
which is generally regarded as probably one of the best Disney films ever, right? And go, let's remake that. Because it doesn't need to be remade.
The worst part about it is that there are kids now growing up with the live actions. I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing out on. You know what I mean?
You can't even cry when Mufasa dies.
I know. Oh, that was heartbreaking. Do you know what I mean? They have to experience the trauma we did. How are they going to grow as people? Which is why I'm so like, every time we go to like Nicole's, I'm like, Harry needs to watch an animated Disney movie.
Or High School Musical. Not
even just Disney. We can do Pixar.
Yeah.
You know what I
Say
mean?
Pixar is a good example of how they used to be. Now they are sort of leaning very closely to what Disney in general is doing, in that they're creating sort of not very great characters. But Disney used to go right. Pixar used to go right. Okay, we're not going to release a movie every year. We're going to release a movie every 2 or 3 years. But our entire heart and soul is going to go into that film.
We're going to put all of our money into it.
Because when you look at some of the spree that Disney went on with that Pixar went on with some of their movies, like, well, you don't even have to say the spree. You've got like Toy Story 2 is brilliant, Toy Story 3 is brilliant. You've got The Incredibles 1 and 2, both great. Ratatouille's great. What else is there? Cars is great. Wall-E is great. Finding Nemo.
Was Bugs Life Pixar?
Yeah.
Bugs. Was it?
Yeah,
yes.
Because there's a blooper in the second one where...
Oh, the bloopers they were so
animated good. Bloopers? Who does that? Do you know what I mean? But it's like, it's kind of... I agree with you in that I would be a lot happier if Disney just went, well, we're going to release a movie every 2 years, but we're going to put absolutely everything into making sure that that's a great film. Instead of just going, oh, okay, here's a movie. It's just a remake and it doesn't really matter. But, yeah.
What do you feel? Because you said like you would riot if they did a live action Tangled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what I would absolutely riot over. It's not even Disney, but Shrek. If they ever touch Shrek, that was literally my childhood.
Yeah.
If they ever touch Shrek.
DreamWorks, that's another one.
Yeah.
Loads of brilliant animated films.
So good.
Although...
But Disney own DreamWorks, don't they? Do they? Yeah. No? They don't. No. So if DreamWorks ever do a live action Shrek...
This is controversial.
Deft. Yes.
Shrek 2 is better.
Ooh.
Shrek 2 is better.
Ooh, it's hard to argue because they're all good. The only one I feel like the third one is probably my least favourite.
Third one's the least favourite, but
it's still good, but the second one was good.
I think Shrek 2 is the perfect animated film.
That was when they turn into a human, like Shrek turns into a human and Donkey's the horse.
Yep.
That's a Puss's first.
Because you've got the good characters from Shrek, but you then get just a whole collection of new characters that are all brilliant in their own right.
Just the holding out for a hero sequence.
Not even just
the fact that
that
didn't get an Oscar.
Not even just that. You look at some of the blooming actors and actresses that were involved. John Cleese was blooming a dad. Julie Andrews was her mother. It's like, what's her name? Oh, who's the one that's not Fern Cotton? The one that's married to Ade Edmondson. I forgot her name. Dawn French. It's not Fern Cotton. It's Dawn French. I feel like it's Julie Sanders or something like that. But yeah, she's the fairy godmother. Brilliant. Antonio Banderas as Puss is like... There's for me, the second one is the best Shrek. That's hands down.
It's hard to argue, but the first one was just so good. I feel like that was peak Donkey.
Peak Donkey.
You know what I mean?
No.
I feel like that was peak Donkey.
Peak Donkey is hey, we're supposed to be having a fiesta, and then they turn up and Puss is like this, and then
Isn't
Donkey.
that not Puss that says that?
Yeah, but then Donkey goes, Puss and Donkey, y'all. That's peak Donkey.
No,
Living the
no,
Vida Loca
no.
by Eddie Murphy and Antonio Banderas is peak Donkey.
We're gonna stay up late, tell many stories in the morning, and make waffles. That is peak Donkey.
Oh no, what is it he says when he's the horse? Look, I'm trotting! Fudge. I'm going to have to go and watch Shrek.
The
entire series. Anyway, enough of Shrek. I forgot what we were talking about. What was this? What were we talking about at the beginning of this?
Action movies. We got on sidetracked on Shrek.
Oh yeah, because Shrek's awesome. Where have all the girls? Do you know what's peak Puss? Right, genuinely peak Puss in Boots. Right, is that sequence where he stops and he jumps off and he goes, go, your lady needs you. And then Shrek, that was good, wasn't it? And then Shrek goes and he gives him the sort of, oh no, and then he leaves and he goes, today I repay my debt. And
that wasn't so good.
That was good. People, you know it was good.
Sorry.
And then he does the thing and then he's fighting and the music's blaring and you're sitting there and you just want to get up and you want to punch a fairy godmother. You know what I mean? Or a Prince Charming.
Mm-hmm,
Cameron Diaz is Fiona.
Yeah.
What the devil? Anyway, that was us talking about that. We ended on a high note. That's what matters. Let us know your opinions down in the comments.
It's 20 to 10. I can't rewatch Shrek now.
I know. I'm gonna have to go watch Shrek too. Let us know down in the comments what you think. Try and be nice again. Frankly, if we get any really nasty comments on this, I'm just going to delete them. Simple as that. I'm getting far too old to be caring about things like that.
Yeah.
I'm nearly 27. Alright.
That's old.
Very old. But yeah, let us know. Like the video, subscribe. Ding the bell to be notified when we upload. We upload every day. Also, let us know some stuff that you might want us to talk about in the future. What's your favourite animated movie? And what would you say is the best animated Disney princess? Yeah, just who's the best animated Disney princess, I suppose. Anything else you want to say?
I really want to watch Shrek, but now I can't.
I'm going to go and watch Shrek too. I'm going to go on a half day tomorrow.
That's the person. We can't talk about Shrek and then I can't not, like... I'm going to be so tired tomorrow.
Not that bit. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you hurry, you can probably get it about 11. Thank you for watching.
We're such children.
We are such children. Hey! Shrek's an adult movie.
I need to know.